Here is your daily dose of the Ultimate Sales Machine coming to you from the new edition. Visit ultimatesalesmachine.com to get your copy or multiple copies. I am your host, Amanda Holmes, CEO of Chet Holmes International. What you're about to learn has assisted 250,000 businesses to generate billions of dollars, working faster, better, smarter.
So with Chapter 13, How to Live a Rich and Full Life, Chapter 13 is actually the reason why I accepted the offer from Penguin to write the new edition, because what I had to say was what I put into Chapter 13. And I wrote 94 versions of those 10 pages. I counted once while on a plane because I was I thought, I think I've done this quite a few times. I should check. And literally there are 94 different Word documents. So I rewrote it a ton, just trying to get it to as close to perfection as possible. And this bowing before the dojo starts, I think, is a great demonstration of what Chapter 13 is all about. So we can just do our little bow as we enter into the dojo for the final time. I always feel that the air is so much sweeter in the dojo. Beautiful. For so many years, and I think that this speaks to coming up with a message that lands. As I was working on Chapter 13, I kept talking to people about it. Everyone said, "Oh, you're writing the new edition. How exciting. What are you writing about?" And I'd say, "I'm writing about service." And people would look at me like, "Who cares about that? Aren't you writing a sales book?" And I'd say, "I'm writing about humility." And they're like, no, really not hitting the spot. I would say, "I'm writing about gratitude." And again, eyes would glaze over and I would watch their response every time I would say what the book was, or what I was putting into Chapter 13 particularly. And then I had said that I would deliver the manuscript to the publisher. And at 4 a.m. I had rented a hotel because I thought, I'm going to get it done. I'm sitting in a hotel. This is finally at its final peak place. And at 4 a.m. I was searching through my father's old emails and I found this email where he said that he generated more wealth in 6 months than the prior 8 years combined. And it was all because of this one thing. And I thought, even thinking about it right now, I'm still getting chills. I thought this has to be in the book. So I sent an email off to the publisher and said, "Give me a little bit more time. This has to make its way into the book." A year and a half later, we finally finished the book. Because just reading it was so profound to me. I just had to absorb it for a while to really see how that integrated with what I was writing. So then when people ask me, "Well, what did you update to the book?" I now say, well, Chapter 13 is my favorite. I found this letter that said that he generated more wealth in 6 months than the prior 8 years combined. And I truly believe it's the encore he never got to give on how to live a rich and full life. That in itself is a masterpiece, just to explain that. And I think it also speaks to the testament of how many times when you start to develop what your educational-based marketing is, when you start to develop what your markup data is, watching the responses, seeing what makes them lean in, and then repeating that over and over and over again. I probably had 400 people ask me about that book, and I got to watch every single person's response. So with every single person's response, when I finally came to that as the title and that the gist of Chapter 13, I knew I'd finally reached some sort of mastery, but it took a lot of tries. So if you feel like, I've tried the stadium pitch and it failed, well, how many times did you try it? Right? It starts to refine and get better and better as you work. So this is only the beginning. Before CHI, I was actually a singer. These are all the different records that I came out with back in the day. And it had seemingly looked like my father was cured of leukemia. So in that time, I had journeyed off to Asia and thought, okay, meditation is my way. I love healing. I love health. I've met my guru. I love her. I love this whole process. This is my life's path. And of course, as life does, as soon as I told my parents I'm not coming back from Asia, I think I've found my calling, the doctors called just a few days later and said, "Your father's gone into remission. He's gotten graft versus host disease, and we don't know if he's going to make it." So I came home, and 6 weeks later, he did end up passing. And before that time, I spent 352 nights with him, he spent 352 nights in the hospital. I only did about 100 of those because it was between me, my mom, and my brothers. If you knew my father, he was a 6'4" man, larger than life. So getting him to sleep on that bed was very difficult for him. And then this was the cot that we'd sleep on and just be able to manage around to change the seats because he would get into these night sweats. And I just find it fascinating that in the 100 all-nighters that I spent with him in those 2 years of being his caregiver, never once did he sit me down and say, hey, this is what my business is. These are who runs my different businesses. This is what I'd like to see from my businesses. So obviously it came as quite a shock when he did ultimately pass. And this is a picture so this was about 3 months after my father had passed, and we were at that time partners with Tony Robbins. So this was my first business mastery as chairwoman. These are all the wonderful staff that we had. These are just like some of the top ones. And I'm just looking around like a deer in the headlights. I have no idea what I'm doing here. This is utterly terrifying. I can't imagine how I'm going to move forward here. It was truly an unbearable time for my morning. Another difficult thing was that we needed innovation. Disruption was at an all-time high. Our leads were drying up because it was solely based on radio. We also had to shift to online commerce because all the other ones were selling their courses online, and we had never processed an order online. It had only been over the phone and credit cards. So I was hiring and firing different C-suites to fill that void, to just trying to figure out how can we sustain this ship and my father's life's work. And this woman right here was just such a huge influence for me. She was the one that kept telling me to step in as CEO, and I finally did. And we had this moment where I started running webinars because the only thing that transferred over from my singing career to this CEO spot was actually the ability to present in front of an audience. That's where I felt most comfortable because I had been doing it playing guitar and busking and in front of audiences for a decade before that. So I started running these webinars, but I was really disappointed in my results that I was getting. I wasn't selling so much. So there would be 300 to 400 CEOs on a call, and I'd be teaching the 3 ways to double sales. And at that time, I was 26, showing all of these, older gentlemen that had very established businesses how to grow their business. It just felt like a crazy scenario. And yet there was this one day where it had really gone wrong and I wasn't really happy with the results. And I walk into the healing center, which is why I live here in Florida. She has a healing center here in Tampa area. And she could see I was upset. And then Guruji said to me, "What's wrong? You look upset." And I said, "Oh, it's nothing. My most recent sales presentation really didn't close much business." She said, "What do you mean close?" And I said, "Oh, well, that's the way that we describe a sale. You close like a vice." Of course, a selfless healing saint isn't going to know sales acumen. But then she said something that truly changed my world and my life. She said, "When life can be lived without pressure, enjoyed and appreciated, why would you ever want to put pressure on it?" And it's the reason why 97% of our prospects feel that salespeople are too pushy today, right? We just don't want to be sold to, especially when we know we can buy things online today instead of interacting with a salesperson. So she continued to say that energy is pressurizing, is harsh. To close means to apply force to shut it down. Shouldn't a sale be associated with planting a seed in the ground and letting a tree grow to bear fruit? Having hundreds of CEOs on these calls, you have the capacity to plant an orchard of trees all at once to feed so many others. And I found that this visualization and this intention for me completely changed the game. And from then on, we increased our conversions by 1,100% and we doubled our coaching clients 2 years in a row. Just shifting the mindset of, instead of me feeling the pressure to be Chet Holmes in the Ultimate Sales Machine vice, I became Amanda Holmes that wants to plant orchards and bear fruit and feed lots of people in that prosperity. So for me, that made such a huge shift. That's also why I believe every meeting should begin with this gratitude and stepping into a meeting with a bow, right? I do this with you all. This is an example of setting that intention of being present and being the best version of yourself when you walk into a meeting. What would that do for corporate America if more of us could adopt that kind of principle as we lead into our daily lives? I think it'd be pretty profound. That's why I do it with our dojo. So yeah, even Inc. ended up writing an article about me that went viral. That day, I beat out Elon Musk and Virgin CEO, Richard Branson, because one millennial actually took responsibility of a company, because at that time they said that millennials would never take responsibility for anything and our whole world would be doomed because of my generation. So it was a great success, and I wouldn't have been able to carry on this legacy over a decade past if it weren't for the intention behind all these brilliant strategies. So each one, right, we've given you ninja skills week after week after week, best practices, case studies, example after example after example. And the missing piece to me, which that's why I tell people to read chapter 13 first, is because that intention is critical. If I had thought for the rest of my life that I'm just a singer-songwriter and I'm a little girl amidst a bunch of sharks, there's no way I could take over this company, then it never would have happened. But changing the intention of it's not about me at all. What's important is that we have a methodology that works. It's been proven. And we have people that are dying to have it and they need it. These business owners are struggling and I need to put myself aside and my own insecurities aside to be able to serve them. And then I found that exact message in the letter that my father wrote. It all starts with gratitude. I never understood this before. Gratitude increases your ability to create more of anything you want in your life. Intention is where everyone should start. Before I even get out of bed in the morning, instead of checking my phone, I lie there and run through my intention for the day in my head, being thankful for my joy, my peace of mind, peace in my heart, my abundance, the wisdom to guide me to always improve my life, the good health that I experience, and finally, the love that is in my life. I get out of bed with an entirely new attitude every day. This was a really big shift for my father as well, because he lived a lot of his life with a chip on his shoulder and feeling that he had to prove himself because he really didn't come from much. He got kicked out of school at 16 and also kicked out of his home because he got kicked out of school. And from then on, just had to start from nothing. I mean, him and my mother would drink or would eat their cereal with water because they didn't have enough money to pay for milk. So that proving himself came from this place of lacking and anger and resentment. So this shift that you're seeing was the transformation that happened when death was knocking at his door and he realized that he had to make a change within his life. So it was a pretty powerful message that I found and I wanted to share with everybody because I felt that if my father actually had survived cancer, these are some of the messages that he would have portrayed. He was even writing, his next book was going to be on health and wellness from everything that he had learned from his journey. So I challenge and ask you, if the next time you think about doubling your sales, leading with the intention of, I'm committed to serve my clients in the best possible way so their success is my success. See what answers come from that as your intention, as opposed to how much more can I put in my pocket. That putting in your pocket will come effortlessly and easily when you come from that place of service. Anything that anybody wants to say on that? I feel like I said a lot there. Should I just pause and make sure you guys are okay?
Thank you for sharing that. I think that was really powerful.
I did this in a meditation too, where I asked this question, and what came back is that I was charging too less and I needed to double my prices. And when we doubled our prices, we got even more clients in the door. This was like back quite a few years ago. So I find it interesting that sometimes when you put that client first, answers that become revealed are shocking and you wouldn't anticipate them, but they can bear fruit. You got it, Tim?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So just to put it out there, my dream and the why behind what I do here is we have this 500-year sustainability plan that I do with my guru and that nonprofit where we're looking for 1,000 acres to create a university of self-realization. I think I've mentioned it on some of these calls, but it's really the driving force behind what I do. And that's my intention, to be able to serve more so that I can help heal healthcare. I think I've mentioned about healing healthcare, but if anybody wants to ask me about this offline, it's my favorite topic. What if we walked into every meeting with the intention of service? What would it do for our lives? Last week, I had the week off and I was serving in the nonprofit. I got up at 6 a.m. every day and I went to bed at 1 a.m. every day. Usually people like to sit on a beach and relax. And for some reason, on my off time, I like to get even more intense. But what I found is the more that I gave, the more that I received. And I took these before and after photos, where in the before I looked so overwhelmed and so overworked and it was like deer in the headlights. And then that after photo, you can see it in my eyes that I actually look more at peace, more confident, and more focused. And it's all within the eyes. It's a really fascinating process. And I want to call out Tony too. I know Tony's on this call too. I really feel, Tony, that you live your life by this principle. And I love that about you and Diane. I feel that the success that you two have had in your lives comes from this place of serving others.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the company we built was based on helping people get what they want. It goes all the way back to Zig Ziglar. If you enough help people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
That's right.
And so I think we built that. And I love what you just said about serving, because we do a lot of that type of thing. And it really does change the energy. And it's amazing who you meet or things that happen while you're serving. It's magical. So, and there are a lot of times I know I probably am more intent about people getting what they want than they are. And I think, and so that, it's the idea, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I would tell some of the coaches we had, you're so nice to these people, you're loving them right out of the sales business. Sometimes, we built a coaching company, and a coaching company is built on one thing, the truth and reality. If you don't tell people the truth about where they are, they live a life of hallucination where they think they are.
Yeah.
And unless you give them a touch of reality, they keep living in their hallucination. Anyway, that's our belief. And if you're not willing to put yourself out there for them, that means you don't care enough about them. You're too worried about yourself and not them. That's how we look. And I mean, that's what we taught our coaches. If you're not willing to give them the reality that they need to succeed, then you're so worried about yourself that you forgot about them, and it's all about the client.
I love that. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Tony and Tony's wife, Diane. I just love this whole concept that they started a company thinking, or a subset of Keller Williams thinking that Keller Williams only thought it would be a $5 million company. And they far surpassed, 9 figures just following this principle. So I think that you're just such a great example of it. So I wanted to highlight you there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So with that said, I want to spend the rest of the time just kind of reflecting over the last 27 weeks. What were some of your biggest takeaways? What were some of your biggest wins? What do you feel, looking back, have you accomplished? Let's pause. I'll give you 60 seconds, and I want you to write down the top, as many things as you can in 60 seconds, and then we'll share, because I think it's reason to celebrate. So set a timer for 60 seconds. Okay. Who would like to share?
Yeah, for me, I really love this entire series. So thank you so much, Amanda and team. I got a lot out of it. And, the core story and stadium pitch was huge because I hadn't really thought about leveraging something like that. And I think the whole underpinning of educational-based marketing and sales is huge. And I think something that's so valuable and really valuable in all industries, mine included. So really getting a deeper understanding of what that looks like and how to use it was really, really, really helpful. And then just hearing more from you around the sales process, how to double sales, like actually the specifics and the details and the follow-up, and many of the stats that you shared about what's not happening and how sales follow-up and engagement with clients is not going was very eye-opening. So, all of the above, but those. And then I think just in terms of like today's focus and really having a bigger why, like that's something that's so near and dear to my heart. And as I kind of shape and shift my company, really having a whole brand element of giving back and a bigger why, a bigger purpose, social impact, that kind of space is something that's really important to me personally, and I know for you as well. But I haven't elevated it in terms of really being able to bring more visibility, not so much for me, but just because it's important. And I feel like being able to give back is just the right thing. I don't know. That's just a personal belief that I have. I think it's just, we need more of it in the world, I think. So being able to have that be a part of underpinning and a bigger why, and having that be visible is really powerful. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I love how articulate and clear you are when you speak. It's so nice. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
I just jotted down a few things here when you had us think about what we've learned, and definitely the pig-headed discipline resonates well with me, and just not giving up on all of these things that we've been learning. And with that, the whole Dream 100 concept, and it's been yielding results. And so I just think that that's just a great strategy. And I love what you brought up today with why add pressure when life could be lived without it. I think that was really powerful.
Mm.
Not just for selling and business growth, but just in everything.
Yeah, no kidding. If you don't have your health, hard to get things done. Beautiful. And Tim, you're last but not least.
Thank you for saying that. So first of all, Amanda, thanks for putting this together. This is the second time I've gone through this. Some folks might know that. Tony certainly does because he was in the first dojo. But I got so much more value this time than I did the last time. And I thought I got a lot of value then. So what I realized is that the more you're exposed to the book and the principles of the book, the better you get at everything. And maybe more so, the better you get at the things that matter, at least for you at that time. So when you had asked us to jot down some things, the first thing that came to mind was, it's not one thing, but it's everything that sort of makes you or separates you from, whether it's the competition or, more importantly, separates you from the box in the mind of your prospect or client that they have before they meet you. They're putting us in boxes, and we have to fight our way out of there or somehow get our way out of that box. So when I say it's not one thing, we had gone through, the stadium pitch, the core story, and then the buyer's guide. And if you really want to double your sales, if you focus on those three things, I really think, and I mean focus, there's no way you can't double your sales because of the education marketing concept. The other thing that came to mind was that, the old story or parable of acres of diamonds. You're we're literally sitting on acres of diamonds while we're out there mining for more diamonds. And I found that to be more than ironic. The other thing that I jotted down was don't underestimate the value of one key relationship. And then this last chapter, you say commit to service. So I want to sort of bring this together. So in February, I went out to a conference. Olivia and I went out, and I said to her, we're so damn busy. We got so many things going on. This is the last thing I need to be doing. What are we doing here? And Olivia, with her youth and actually her perspective on things, she said, it'll be all right. And so with that, I think our plane landed at 4:30 and the conference started. Registration was at 6. And there was a little get together, like a meet and mingle type thing. Anyway, we met two women and a guy, and they would have been colleagues of mine, right? So they weren't prospects or anything. We ended up talking with them, and you talk about, a commitment to service. They had questions on certain things that they were experiencing in their, let's say, business relationship with the agencies that they were involved with. They were asking me questions. I knew what their questions were, but I had a better idea of where their questions were coming from. And they just wanted to make sure that, were they getting the best deal that they possibly can? And, coming from a perspective of service, we answered all their questions. And at the end of the day, they were getting screwed over. big time. And I didn't, that's not something that you come out and say retrospectively, that's what it was. Anyway, as fate would have it, I happened to have delivered a keynote at this conference. And after my keynote, I had spoken on the second day. So after my keynote, I got back to my seat and there was a text message from all three of them separately. We need to talk.
Yeah.
So we ended up, they took Olivia and I out for dinner. We talked and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that relationship has exploded into things that I never could have ever imagined. And we had a call yesterday with a guy who is putting on some type of it's called a financial and wealth explosion event.
Oh, wow.
And the criteria for getting into this thing, for coming to attend this, is you have to make $1 million a year minimum of income. So I would say that's probably my ideal client. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but the point is that, so we were just answering questions from a perspective of service. And I think when you focus on that, on whoever you're in front of, whether it's a client, patient, a colleague, what have you, if you could focus 150% on that person and solving their problems, you're never going to have a problem with anything, whether it's income, whether it's lifestyle, you won't have a problem. So they were the thoughts that came to mind.
I love it. A good example, I think you've mentioned them, about the Dream 100, where you found them and they're a great example of a one. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about Dream 100 is people believe, I have to get 100. It could just be one.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't tell you, they fill my calendar every week. It's crazy.
Amazing. That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that, Tim.
Thank you.
Well, here we are at time. The final bow. It's been such an honor and a privilege to spend all this time with all of you, and you guys will be the first to know when the next one starts up. So,
Great.
Such a pleasure, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Make sure to get your copy or copies at theultimatesalesmachine.com. There's a lot of special bonuses that you can't get going to Amazon, so make sure you check it out at ultimatesalesmachine.com.